We understand everyone is at a different place in their fitness journey. Most people come in with a handful of things they're really good at, but we all have a few movements that are holding us back. We want our athletes to have the ability to individualize their training to their specific needs, which is why we are excited to announce the addition of skill programs as part of TTT Compete. If you need help getting better at things like the snatch, clean and jerk, pistols, handstand walk, handstand push-ups, toes to bar, chest to bar, ring muscle-ups, or double unders, go to trainingthinktank.com to learn more.
You had this thing that you wanted to change, and now here you are, and you've built a thing that is like changing.
Yeah.
That's changing everything itself. And so it's like, maybe it doesn't matter as much to you.
It doesn't. It changed everything itself. It changed me. So I started and I wanted to win as a coach. I couldn't win as an athlete. I knew I couldn't win as an athlete. I trained very hard and very systematically from 2009 through 2011. First, as a team member at the CrossFit Games, and then as an individual athlete at regionals. And I saw the other people in the community. Like, I was in bed every night at the same time. I was getting up. I was doing multiple sessions a day. I had a coach helping me with endurance progressions. My strength levels were, without training, well above where the culture was at that time. Now I would be a weakie relative to what's going on, but I was snatching 285 and clean and jerking 350 and deadlifting 535 at a time where that wasn't in the market yet. Like, those types of athletes hadn't really got in. So I was super strong. I was way bigger. I mean, I was cutting weight to be at 225. I was like restricting my food intake because any strength training I did got me bigger. The second I stopped like weighing and measuring my food, I'd be 245 pounds. Like, I was just built to be anabolic, and I was doing running progressions and I was getting heavier. So I went to regional.
There are a lot of people listening that would love to have that problem.
Yeah. You just wouldn't want to have that problem if you're already big for CrossFit.
Yeah.
So I looked around and I saw like what was going on. Like, Rich Froning was coming into existence, and he would, or into power, whatever you call it. And he was being born.
Little baby Froning just popped out a grown man.
But he was all like, his strength levels were catching up to mine so fast as he was able to do things metabolically and movement wise and gymnasticsly, where I was like, that's not possible. Like, that's not how I'm built. And I'm not saying that because like I didn't believe in myself. It was just like kind of obvious. Like, I'm not built to be great at this. But I knew so much about training, and I watched how a lot of these people were training, and at the time I was more judgmental. So the thought was like, you're idiots. Like, a lot, not him specifically, but like 99% of the elites were drinking beers and just slamming Metcons and had no structured strength progressions and weren't doing anything at a professional level at that time. So I was like, if I could find talent and help them cultivate it in a structured and methodical way, I can get the competitive edge and prove that I am the best coach in the world at this. And that was really a foundational drive in working like with Travis, and then getting Travis to accept that we were going to use and work with Noah as a training partner so we could cross compare data and run training camps and do all the things that we've done. But in 2009, Noah took second, and he was wearing the leader's jersey on Sunday.
2019.
2019. Whoop, fast forward. Sorry. So we fast forward from 2011 to 2019, and I went to the games. I guess this will be like a vulnerability sharing thing that would come out in the book, but Noah took second, and he was like the happiest I've ever seen him. Like, we were down on the floor during the celebration. I was actually coaching Will at the time, who had made the top 10. So me and him were sitting down, and like that whole experience, like, it kind of made me uncomfortable because there were so many people around and all the lights were coming down, and like everyone from that like fan thing was staring down. And Will, I remember looking over to Will, and he was like, calm down, man. No one's looking at you. And like pointed out there. And I was actually really grateful that he said it, because it calmed me down, because I was like almost panicky. I definitely had like worse social anxiety that I hadn't dealt with back then, but especially being in crowds with a lot of light and a lot of noise was like a really bad emotional experience.
You didn't see the table of pizza and beer off to the side?
I should have. That's what I should have did too. You did?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because I was down there filming you guys.
Dude,
I gotta get a
I was
pizza
so nervous. I probably would have thrown it up. Like, anyways, But that experience was like really emotionally damaging for me because I was really unhappy. I didn't think that I helped somebody take second at the games. I thought I fucking like we were in a leadership position and we had the fucking chance to win, and I might never get this chance again. I'm a loser as a coach. All the work wasn't worth it. And like there was a lot of damaging inner critic psychology. And that kind of really started making me look inward to be like, there's something broken in the way that I'm thinking about myself, because a lot of the world is giving me positive feedback. The business is growing. People are trusting me. I'm giving talks and they're like, oh, that talk was good and funny. But on the inside, I was like, I don't deserve any of this. I'm not good enough. So I started working on myself and understanding why I do it and why it makes me happy and what is the best part of it. And slowly I just started to unwind the whole concept of winning and losing as my motivating factor. Like I still, every time I step into a competitive situation, and like everybody here can tell you, try to win. I like winning better. Like if I'm playing a freaking ping pong game, I want to win. If I'm playing golf, I want to win. If I step into a CrossFit workout, I want to win. I don't think I'm going to win most of the time, but I'm going to try to then get internal wins. I'm going to be like, okay, if you can go unbroken and keep up for the first round, that's your win for the day. Like my psychology is fired up by the idea of winning. But in maturity, I've realized that like everybody loses. Life makes you lose because you get bad situations that happen. Somebody is better than you and they just show up on the right time. You get sick before a big moment. And if your whole sense of self-worth is dictated by winning and losing, it fucks you up. And I think you're seeing that with the younger generation. There's people sitting out competition because the pressure's too high, because they're adopting these mindsets where it's win or nothing else. And our whole culture was designed on fittest on earth. Like you're basically the fittest or you're nothing. And that's reflected of the compensation structures. It was used in justification for why an athlete, like why it doesn't matter if a low-level athlete gets bad no reps early on, because they only care if the fittest on earth gets through, because that's what the test was all designed for. And for me, that just didn't work. Like I was too broken. Like I compete now for community, for culture, for the opportunity to see people have triumphs, because I know that when people fail, even though it fucking sucks, you learn so much more for it. And I want to be there with people in those moments to help them grow in there. And that's what fires me up. So like I've changed. Like 10 years ago, I'm going to be the best. And now that's like, yeah, I'm going to try to be my best, but I don't give a fuck if they like the pundits out there are like Max el-hag is the best CrossFit coach out there. I'm like, whatever, like your opinion of what I do for a living is not driving me on a day-to-day basis to do the things for my community that I want to do because I really love and enjoy it.
So that whole mindset that you just talked about, I feel like is something that is pervasive in competitive culture, right? The tying your self-worth to the wins and losses.
Yeah.
And I remember having conversations with people after quarterfinals this year, multiple athletes, about that exact thing. That think about how insane it is to tie your self-worth to your success or not success in a sport that changes the rules, on a yearly basis, changes the standards on a yearly basis. That doesn't uphold. I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into all that. But think about how hard. Think about how, if you like zoom out and really look at that, like that's what you're doing. You're tying your self-worth to something that you have no control over. Yeah. And so if you do that,
and there's no predictability in. Yes. Because if you like. The year that the sport was dictated in 2017, it was very, very heavy. There were a lot of workouts that were heavy. And then the next year you came in the regional workouts, they pulled out all the barbell and it was dumbbell only and gymnastics only to make a statement that the sport is not governed by the barbell. I get it. And I get where it comes from and unknowable. But when you set the standard for what the sport is going to be and somebody dedicates a year of their life to getting stronger, because that's what happened to not the Fronings of the world, but like the people that were being coached at a sub-tier level that were striving to get an opportunity to be on that floor. They hired weightlifting coaches. They put on 50 pounds on their lifts and 50 pounds on their back squat, and they were super proud. And then they show up and they're like, fuck, I'm worse. And I'm like, look, first of all, I don't agree that that's true. I don't think the test is accurate. I think it was really unfair that that's the way that the sport is governed, but it kind of is what it is. So I started to personally break free from it like 5 years ago. It was really after Noah took second that I was like, oh, I'm shifting my mindset. Not because I don't want to help people win anymore, but because like, fuck that as being my most important variable. There's so much life to live and so much to learn in coaching, and I get to travel the world and I get to do this for a living as opposed to sweating my ass in a seat in a subway. I get to almost like flex my craziness in this world. Like people here, the staff has been super patient with me. Like my ideas to a lot of people outside this world were crazy when I first started. They were like, why'd you call your business a think tank if it's just you and one coach? What kind of a think tank is that? And now 10 years later, I'm like, yeah, take that. Now it is a think tank, and now people are here. It's because there was a purposeful forward vision that I wanted to create. And I think the vision never changed, but the motivation, the why, the who it's for, that's all changed, right? Like, instead of back then thinking that there's this like outside group of people, like the mass market was one day going to be like, oh my God, Max had a champion. He's the best coach. Your business is great. I'm like, well, fuck those people. That's not why I do it for. I do it so that we could have a cool business and a cool headquarters and a place to work together and a place to continue our ideas and a place to grow our culture and a way to connect with people all over the world. And like, that's who I work for. So winning and losing on game day became less important, but I think I got better at helping people win more than they lose. So it's like ironic.
It was less about you trying to be the best coach in the world and instead trying to be the best coach for the person that was in front of you.
Yeah.
And so, Chris, you were trying to think about how we would tie this back to our initial conversation.
I was about to interrupt just now and be like, so when it comes to like improving Caden over Noah, just for a giggle, but
yeah. Well, no, the funny thing is, I think that Noah is one of Caden's biggest teachers in a weird way, because the mistakes I made with Noah and with Travis and watching like Noah's longevity, and like there could be people that would critique like same thing that they would say about me as a coach. They would say no about Noah. Like, well, he won Wadapalooza multiple times. He won regionals. He won the Open. He won everything out there, but he never won the games. That doesn't make him not a champion. Like, that means that there was one better person than him in 2019, and it means that there were a couple better people than him in the other years that sprinkled through. But he's one of the best in the world to do it all the time. And Travis, too. Like, Travis never won the games or podiumed at the games, but his behaviors led to a lot of wins within the culture. So the veteran athletes that we see in the community are maybe more of the teachers and reinforcers of good habits and good behaviors to Caden. Like, it might not actually be me that's the biggest influence, but I helped influence the leaders of culture to make better decisions that set them up in places where they're more fulfilled and balanced and still healthy and didn't burn out from it. And then they permeate downstream. But my process doesn't really change in that cycle, I don't think.
So I had questions written down.
Yeah. What are they?
For this podcast.
Did we poll people for questions, or
no,
these are just yours?
No, this was just mine.
Okay.
But I think this is the one that is most applicable, and it's what advice, and I think I know the answer to this, but what advice do you have for those younger athletes?
to hear the rest of the conversation, including the key to developing CrossFit athletes, how TTT survived as a CrossFit camp without any champions, how coaching athletes to win the CrossFit Games changed Max, and why a lack of self-awareness could be holding you back in CrossFit. Check out these other clips here on the screen or listen to the full audio version on all major podcast providers.